Okay, so the following quote is from a lady calling into a Texas radio station in response to the radio host commenting on welfare recipients. She says, "Can you really blame us? I mean, I get to sit home, I get to visit my friends all day, I even get to smoke weed. Me and the people that I know that are illegal immigrants that don't contribute to society, we're still going to get paid. Our checks are still going to come in the mail every month, and they're going to come on time. Why should I work? We're the ones getting paid, so can you really blame us?" This leads me to my claim that the welfare system is easily abused, allowing for many unemployed recipients to live off of taxpayers' well-earned money. The two main branches of welfare that I'm going to be talking about are CalWorks, which is aid in the form of money, and CalFresh, which is aid in the form of food stamps. Now, of course, I'm sure many of you guys know at least one person who is truly in need of aid and is using it for its correct purpose, and that is why in my claim I use the word many instead of all. I am going to be covering the flaws in the application process, how simple it is to use the aid for things that it isn't meant for, and how much the government spends on these programs, specifically for people that are unemployed but are not disabled or elderly. For my first subpoint, the lack of specificity, detail, and depth in the application and approval process for receiving welfare frequently allows for loopholes and lies. Most of the requirements for being able to receive aid are not things that are able to be verified. So the following information I got directly from the California Department of Social Services website. Families that have a child in the home, the main requirements are families that have a child in the home who have been deprived of parental support or care because of the absence, disability, or death of either parent. 2, families with the child when both parents are in the home but the principal earner is unemployed. And 3, needy caretaker relatives of a foster child or children. Other factors taken into consideration are citizenship, age, income, resources, and assets. Important information that is not taken into consideration or areas that are loosely covered are: they don't drug test, they don't ask for further detail into the truth of actually being a single parent. So usually women say that they are not in contact with the father, so they don't have to report his income. 3, other sources of income other than an official paycheck. And 4, there's no way of knowing if a recipient's income or conditions have changed since receiving benefits. My second subpoint is that not only is being able to receive aid significantly easy, but it is even easier to use aid in the ways that it wasn't meant for. Recipients of the government program SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, often flip their food stamps into cash by selling them to people for a lower price than the store prices and for definitely more than what they received them for, which was nothing. A non-profit organization called Turning Point USA, which is aimed at traveling around the country educating youth on current political events, took to Twitter and Instagram to see what people were saying about the reduction in funds for welfare. Some of the tweets read, how y'all think I'm in a different city every other day? I hustle, food stamps and weed, LOL, with the hashtag EBT gang. Fox 11 News put out an article about Craigslist being an outlet for selling food stamps on October 22nd, 2013. One of the Craigslist posts read, I have $500 worth and it costs $350 cash. The article read, because the cards do not include a photo ID, a recipient who is looking to sell his or her benefits for cash can simply do so and then report them stolen or lost and be issued a replacement. So then after reading this, I personally searched on Craigslist and found 2 postings within this month. One in San Bernardino that read food stamps for sale, and one in Irvine that read, I'm selling $100 of food stamps for $50. My third subpoint is that billions of dollars of taxpayers' money is used to support recipients of welfare that are unemployed. According to a study done by UC Berkeley's Center for Research and Education, the federal government spends $152.8 billion per year on only the 2 main branches of welfare. This amount doesn't include smaller programs such as child care assistance or other state-funded means-tested programs. Out of this $158.2 billion, only 56% goes to working families. 44% of $158.2 billion goes to people who are not working, which equates to $67.2 billion. That concludes my argument that the welfare system is poorly put together and regulated if it allows for people who aren't truly in need to receive aid which was created solely for people in need.
All right, Michelle, the propositions identified, although it's awfully long, I think you've got a conditional claim in the second part of the argument, so you need to keep it a little bit simpler for the oral presentation. That's kind of a problem with the secondary claims, too. Sometimes the phrasing on them is awkward, and they don't always sound like declarative sentences. Sometimes they sound like explanations. So it's not always clear where you're headed with some of your arguments, but there is a layout of the structure, and you signpost those points as you get to them in the body of the speech. So as a listener, I can tell kind of where I am during the presentation. Like I said, I think sometimes the inferences aren't as clear as they need to be. Your data, there's a lot of factual data about what is covered in that first point. What we need is some evidence that talks about the drug tests, the single parents, the lack of updating, and the no verification of other income. You say that there is nothing that is required on those sorts of things, and I'm going, okay, and what is your proof on that? I don't know where that came from. That's a conclusion that seems to be based on the fact that these other things are listed and these aren't listed, and so therefore there's nothing being done about them. I'm not sure that that's the case. I don't know, and I think you need to have some evidence that talks about those kinds of things. The misuse of the program, I think you document with some examples, but I'm not exactly sure that I would want to rely on Twitter as a way to prove a point. First of all, that's a good example of public information, a public forum type information, and there's no way of checking the reliability of that information. I think the examples illustrate your point, but there's got to be some research out there that estimates how much gets misused. And that was the other problem that I had with this argument, is that there's no sense of, at the end you mentioned $152 billion is spent on these kinds of programs, and I'm wondering, so what part of it goes to people who are smoking weed and on the road and selling their stuff, and they've got a sugar daddy someplace, and they've got a job, and they haven't. I mean, you've said all these things are going on, and I got nothing here that tells me how much of this. I don't think anybody's going to deny that there is some fraud there. The question is it substantial? Is it easy because the system is unregulated? I think that's where you need to develop the argument a little bit more. You're on the right track here, but I think there's just a little bit, you've stopped short of connecting this random information to something that is more substantive about the programs themselves. On the third point, basically, it's just about how much money gets spent, and that's mostly factual data that you're presenting there. There seems to be an inference that because some of it is going to people who have non-working members of the family, that there's something wrong with that, but you never make that argument. You just kind of tell us what the information is at that point. There's a lot of reading in your presentation. You need to do a little bit less of that. It seems like you've got a good understanding of the concept, so I don't think you should have to read quite as much. But because of the way the secondary points are sometimes phrased, and because of the way the evidence is sometimes being paraphrased, I don't think it comes across as smoothly as it needs to. All right, thank you.